Glad to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, and we are pleased to be joined by Congressman Michael Guest this morning. He represents Mississippi's 3rd District. Congressman, good morning.
Good morning, Richard. Good to talk to you again.
You as well, and I appreciate some of your time. What's the mood like in D.C. right now as we're now into week 3 of the federal government shutdown? We've seen 9 votes on the Senate side of the Congress, and all 9 times Democrats have voted to keep the government shuttered for now. How frustrating is this for you and your colleagues?
Well, it's extremely frustrating because, there are a number of things that we have to get done between now and the end of the calendar year that we're unable to work on during the government shutdown. The biggest of those are the appropriations bills. The end of the fiscal year would have been October 1st, and so that was what prompted the government shutdown. But we were very close, House and Senate, on being able to negotiate the differences between the chamber bills for at least 3 of the 12 spending bills, with hopes to get those 3 on the floor shortly after October 1st and then move on to the other bills. And the plan was to have all 12 spending bills passed by both chambers, signed by the president between now and the end of the year. That work has stopped. There's also was some work in the Homeland Security Committee that we were looking at potential legislation to continue to try to provide additional resources to the Department of Homeland Security as they continue to secure the border, continue their effort to deport illegal immigrants. And so a lot of that work has stopped across Congress. And so there is a sense of frustration that, look, we know that the American people sent us to Washington for change. Republicans have the House, they have the Senate, they have the White House. Now is the opportunity for us to move forward. And that momentum that we had going into the shutdown has been blunted by the Democrats. And look, I believe that was part of their strategy all along, Richard, is that they were looking for this government shutdown as a way to take away the momentum of Republicans, take away momentum of the president, and really stall what we have been able to do so far this year.
What do you make of what John Fetterman said in that town hall that was at the Kennedy Center last night, hosted by Chris Cuomo, where he absolutely unequivocally said the shutdown belongs to the Democrats? It's what they wanted to do, and that's why he has continued to vote against it, because he doesn't think it's the right thing to do.
I think that's becoming more and more apparent to the American people that, look, this is something that Chuck Schumer, after he agreed to the original CR earlier in the year, everybody saw that once that CR expired, that the Democrats were looking to shut down the government. They wanted to shut down the government because they wanted to blunt the momentum of the Republicans. They wanted to be able to show their base that they were fighting for the Democrat cause, particularly to pander to the far left of their base, who was so infuriated by Chuck Schumer last shutdown that many people were prompting AOC to primary Chuck Schumer in the next Senate cycle. And so this is something I think that the Democrats have been forced into by their base. And at this point, they've been unable to find an off-ramp. I have been hearing now, this is since the shutdown began, I had been hearing rumors that the shutdown would likely last through this coming weekend because of the rally there in D.C., that the Democrat base wanted the government shut down, felt like that would really motivate some of those progressives, some of the socialists in their party, and would also kind of provide them some insulation so that they would not be attacked during the rallies this weekend, not physically, but attacked politically. And I think that's exactly how things have played out. Fetterman has been a voice of reason in the Democrat Party throughout this. He has been a constant vote to keep the government open, and his vote has been consistent, whether Democrats were seeking the CR or Republicans. And so you can clearly see that he has been someone that the American people really agree with with his views of the shutdown, and he has become a voice of reason for the Democrats in the United States Senate.
And maybe who saw that coming? We get a question on the C Spire text line this morning. It says, small business owner, and my health insurance is increasing by $450 a month if Congress doesn't extend the ACA provisions. Will you ask the congressman what his plan is to stop that from happening? And Congressman, we know that subsidies exist all across government for lots and lots of different things, lots of different entities, lots of different sectors of the economy and sectors of business. But this is certainly concerning to a lot of people. When Obamacare came on board, the Affordable Care Act, it was, hey, this is a way to provide insurance for more Americans, for all Americans to make it available. But it only worked financially if the government subsidized the cost of those provisions. So what do you say to small business owners in Mississippi and in your district and others that go, I don't know how I'm going to afford this healthcare insurance that the government has mandated that I have if it goes up by $450 a month or well over $5,000 a year?
Yeah, and what I have said repeatedly, Richard, since this has begun, is look, we've got to get the government reopened so that we can have these negotiations. I am against just a blanket extension of the Obamacare enhanced subsidies. If we're going to extend those subsidies, I think we need to look at a couple different things. One, we need to look at making sure that we put income limits on those subsidies. When I'm traveling across the state and when I tell people that 35% of all the subsidies go to families making $100,000 or more, some of those subsidies going to families who make $200,000 to $300,000. Many people in Mississippi are shocked. They believe that this is a program designed to help the working poor, designed to help those people who are just above the poverty level. And when I tell them the income level that some of the individuals qualify for these subsidies, people in Mississippi are shocked by that. And so Republicans want to look at putting income caps limits on those subsidies. We also need to put in guardrails to stop waste, fraud, and abuse. There are what are known as phantom policies that are out there where insurance companies are being paid for policies that don't actually match up with individuals. And so we have that waste, fraud, and abuse that Republicans have been seeking to root out since President Trump was sworn into office. And the third thing I'll say is, look, if this is so important that we need to shut down the government, if this is where the Democrats feel like that this is the most important issue facing America today, then I challenge the Democrats when we reopen the government to come up with a plan to pay for a program that is going to be at a minimum $500 billion. And so what does that look like? Where can we find areas where we can cut? Where are Democrat programs where we can take money from those programs to pay for this program? If you're in the state legislature and you want to create a program, you've got to find a way to fund that program. You've got to find a way to pay for that program. In Washington, we create programs that we do not fund, and we just add that cost to our national debt. And I'm opposed to adding an additional $500 billion in new debt to pay for this. But I am open to the conversation of how do we pay for it, what kind of income cap limits, and what kind of guardrails need to be put on the program. And look, those are discussions that we need to be having, but those discussions can only occur once the government reopens.
Is that $500 billion a year?
No, that would be $500 billion over 10 years. So that is a 10-year cost. To the program is roughly
$50 billion a year.
$50 billion a year, and so that would be $500 billion over a decade. If you expand that permanently, then that $500 billion, of course, grows for each and every year that the program continues to remain funded.
Certainly is a lot of money, and I'm assuming that your Democrat colleagues don't have much of an appetite for talking about where they want to cut funding.
I have not heard that, nor have I heard really much of an appetite for even the income cap limits. The ACA, the Affordable Care Act, which I would argue is not affordable. If it was affordable, we wouldn't need subsidies to continue to prop up the ACA. But the ACA, I think, as a whole, has not been a program or has not been the program that was sold to the American people. It was sold to us that this was going to be affordable health care that this was going to be a way to provide more people health care at a lower cost. And I think that the ACA has failed on that. I think that this is a program that only exists because of government subsidies. Without those subsidies, it would not be affordable. And so I think we need, as a Congress, to look at the health care model as a whole. Let's just not look at these subsidies. That is a piece of that. But let's look at what we can do to bring down insurance premiums across the board. Let's see what we can do to bring down healthcare costs, because we know healthcare costs, they are a driver of our national debt, which is now knocking on $38 trillion. And so this is something that Congress needs to continue to look at, but we can't look at it when the government is shut down.
Congressman, you got time to hang with me through the break for just a couple more minutes?
I do, Richard.
Michael Guest, Congressman for the state of Mississippi, representing the 3rd District. We've got more to get into with him on the other side of this timeout. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross has been brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR benefits and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Call them today at 601-206-7966 or go to mwgemployerservices.com. Congressman Michael Guest is my guest right now. He represents Mississippi's 3rd District in Washington, D.C. Congressman, yesterday was a significant day at the Supreme Court. They were hearing oral arguments in the Louisiana versus Calais case, and it didn't get a lot of coverage until you started seeing clips of what was being said by some of the justices during those oral arguments yesterday. There's a lot to this case, but I think at its core, it's looking, being the Supreme Court, is looking at whether or not the Voting Rights Act of 1965 actually violates the United States Constitution in terms of the way that district maps are drawn for congressional seating, I guess would be the way to say it, across the country. What is your reaction to some of what you heard yesterday and what that might mean for the state of Mississippi?
What was not surprised, particularly if you look at kind of the breakdown of the justices and their political leaning, it seems like those justices who we believe lean more conservative were asking questions that would tend to indicate that they might vote to strike down Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, while the more liberal, progressive justices, their questions seem to be towards propping up that section of the Voting Rights Act. It's something that there has been ongoing discussion. We see regularly when congressional districts are drawn, and even when you have some state representative and state Senate districts. A lot of times those districts are later challenged in federal court. And one of the challenges you often see is the racial makeup of districts. We talk about gerrymandering all the time, and the reason that districts were drawn, while we used to see more gerrymandering, I believe, based on race, much of it now is based on political party. And the party that controls each state tries to draw as many safe districts for their party and as few districts as possible for the opposition party. And that has become increasingly common. And it does appear, from the questioning, that there is a likelihood that possibly next year, when an opinion is returned on this case, that it could strike down Section 2. I don't know the impact that would have in Mississippi. I look at our neighboring states, Louisiana and Alabama. They both were recently ordered to redraw congressional districts last election cycle, one in South Louisiana and one in South Alabama. I think that if the Voting Rights Act or that section of the Voting Rights Act was thrown out, that it would be very likely that you would see redistricting in Alabama and in Louisiana. I've not heard about Mississippi if our legislature would consider coming in. With the opinion coming down again sometime next year, that would not give Mississippi time to redraw our congressional districts for next year, but it could for the following election cycle. Again, not exactly sure what that opinion is going to look like, but it is an interesting legal argument. And for those of us who follow politics and follow what these congressional maps are going to look like, it is going to add a new twist to that once that opinion is handed down next year.
Yeah, it certainly is. And Mississippi not immune to that, even though it hasn't been at the congressional level. We've seen that with at the state level, and we've got special elections coming up in about 3 weeks for some districts, some 14 seats up for grabs in Mississippi because of redistricting. Last thing for you, we've got about 2 minutes until the break. I would love for you to go back and put your district attorney hat on if you don't mind. Last weekend was a really, really difficult weekend in the state of Mississippi. You had 5 different places where you had shootings or murders that occurred, kind of loosely surrounding the events of high school football games and college football games, 3 in and around high school campuses, a couple that were on college campuses. What do you make of what happened at home in Mississippi with this unnecessary death that we saw in our home state?
Yeah, particularly the shootings, if you look at the shooting in Leland was particularly troubling because of the number of individuals who were killed. And then I believe that there have been, if I'm not mistaken, half a dozen arrests made in that case.
Correct.
Many of those individuals charged with capital murder, and so capital murder still exists in Mississippi. We still have the possibility of individuals being sentenced to death by lethal injection by way of jury trial. The good thing is we have seen arrests made. We're seeing individuals being held accountable. I think now you've really got to look and you've got to follow is, we've got to make sure that there is aggressive prosecution. That's something that we've seen, not necessarily in Mississippi, but in some of your other areas across the country, particularly more urban areas, where you see individuals who have been arrested for very dangerous, violent crimes who have not been aggressively prosecuted. And look, I always believe that we as a society must send a message to those individuals who are committing violent crimes, who are preying on the elderly, preying on children. Those individuals, one, must be held accountable, but it also is a chance for us to send a message that we are not going to tolerate this behavior, and hopefully will serve as an incentive to others not to commit similar crimes. And so I think that's what we need to be watching going forward as these cases play out within the criminal justice system, that they are held accountable.
Thank you for your time this morning.